Welcome back to RV News, the channel where we bring you the latest, most explosive, and eye-opening updates on the Iraqi Dinar, the Vietnamese Dong, and everything surrounding the global currency reset. If you've been following us for some time, you know we don't shy away from diving deep into the most controversial, hard-hitting, and intriguing news when it comes to these currencies. And today, family, we have something truly stunning to talk about, as Frank26’s, one of the most followed voices in the dinar community, has dropped a bombshell update that has got people buzzing all over the world. The numbers he's talking about are eye-popping, jaw-dropping, and life-changing if they turn out to be true. According to Frank26’s latest discussion, the Iraqi dinar could potentially hit a rate of $5.66, while the Vietnamese Dong could land at $4.78. Now I know what you're thinking. Could this really be possible? Or is this another overhyped rumor in the long line of speculation we've seen for years? That's exactly what we're going to dig into today. The facts, the speculation, the possible scenarios, and what this might mean for holders of these currencies worldwide. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's pause for a second and think about just how massive those numbers are. A dinar at $5.66 means that anyone holding even a modest stack of dinars could be staring at generational wealth. A dong at $4.78 means that those who invested in Vietnam's currency, long considered one of the undervalued gems in the currency world, could see life-changing returns overnight. For context, these rates are higher than many of the projections floating around in past discussions of a revaluation. Historically, analysts often mention the Iraqi dinar, possibly being reinstated back to the pre-war levels of $3.22, or maybe a bit higher due to Iraq's vast oil reserves and economic potential. But $5.66. That's beyond what many even dared to dream, and the dong at nearly $5? That would be a complete paradigm shift, not only for investors, but also for Vietnam's place in the global financial system. So naturally, the excitement, the questions, and even the skepticism are all running high right now. Frank26 has been a well-known name in the dinar space for years, often bringing what he claims are inside updates, military whispers, and bank contacts. His latest update, which has been spreading like wildfire across Telegram groups, forums, and YouTube, is one of the boldest yet. He's suggesting that both Iraq and Vietnam are preparing to shock the world with these rates. Now, whether you believe him or not, we can't ignore the fact that a lot of movement has been happening behind the scenes. Iraq has been aggressively reforming its banking sector, connecting to international payment systems, strengthening ties with the U.S. Treasury, and working on stabilizing the dinar domestically. Prime Minister Soudani has been making deals with major energy companies, foreign investors, and regional partners to boost Iraq's economy. At the same time, Vietnam has been making waves in manufacturing, trade agreements, and global supply chain shifts as companies move operations out of China and into Vietnam. All of this provides the groundwork for a stronger currency, but does it justify $4.78 per dong? That's the million-dollar question. To understand why people are even considering these kinds of numbers, we need to look at a few important factors. First, Iraq is sitting on one of the largest oil reserves in the world. Its ability to generate wealth is practically unmatched, and as the world continues to transition into new energy models, oil is still king for the time being. Iraq's production capacity, once fully unleashed and coupled with global partnerships, could skyrocket its revenues. If that revenue is managed correctly and tied to a strong currency reform, the value of the dinar could, in theory, reach extraordinary levels. Frank26 argues that Iraq doesn't just want to bring the dinar back to its old rate, it wants to shock the global markets and show the world that Iraq is not a broken economy but a rising power in the Middle East. That's why numbers like $5.66 are being floated. He suggests this could be part of a deliberate strategy to restore national pride and attract massive foreign investment. As for Vietnam, the story is a little different but no less powerful. Vietnam has become a critical player in global trade. especially as companies diversify away from China. Its labor force, infrastructure improvements, and strategic position in Southeast Asia have all contributed to an economic boom. The Vietnamese Dong has long been suppressed and undervalued on the world stage, in part due to Vietnam's developing economy status. However, as global trade patterns change and Vietnam signs new trade agreements with the US, Europe, and Asia, its currency has the potential to re-rate to reflect its true economic power. Frank26 claims that Vietnam is preparing to surprise the world by coming in much stronger than expected, aligning itself with global currency realignments and the possible rollout of a new financial system that equalizes trade balances. That's where the $4.78 figure comes in. Now, family, let's be honest. The idea of these currencies hitting such high numbers is both thrilling and, to many, hard to believe. Skeptics argue that such rates are simply unrealistic, pointing out that if Iraq's dinar or Vietnam's dong were valued that high, it would put enormous pressure on their economies, exports, and domestic markets. They say Iraq might return to around $1 to $3, and Vietnam might be somewhere in the cents range, maybe 50 cents or $1 at the most. That's the more conservative take. But supporters of Frank26’s vision argue that we are entering uncharted waters globally. They point to the rumors of a global currency reset, the increasing weakness of the US dollar, and the need for asset-backed currencies to come back into play. If we are indeed headed into a new financial paradigm, then rates like $5.66 and $4.78 are not only possible but could be part of a carefully designed plan. This brings us to the bigger picture, the idea of the global currency reset. Many in the Dinar and Dong communities believe that what's coming is more than just Iraq reinstating its currency or Vietnam adjusting its exchange rate. They believe the entire global monetary system is about to be reshuffled, with fiat currencies being reset against asset-backed standards like gold, oil, and other tangible resources. If this is true, then countries like Iraq and Vietnam, with their strong resource bases and booming economies, would stand to benefit massively. Frank26 and others suggest that this is exactly why we're seeing so much silence from mainstream financial news outlets, because they don't want the average person to know what's coming until it's already here. The rates being discussed could be part of that hidden plan, designed to redistribute wealth and rebalance the world economy. Of course, if you've been holding dinar or dong for years, you've heard a lot of predictions, dates, and rates before. People have been burned by false intel, delays, and endless "it's about to happen" announcements. That's why it's important to approach these updates with both excitement and caution. Could Frank26 be right this time? Could these numbers really be what's waiting on the other side of the curtain? Or could this just be another example of hopeful speculation designed to keep the community engaged? That's the tension we're all feeling right now. But one thing is for sure. There's no denying that the winds of change are blowing in Iraq and Vietnam. The banking reforms, the international partnerships, the economic growth, it's all real. And it's laying the groundwork for something big. Imagine for a moment if the numbers are true. Let's say you have 1 million dinar at $5.66. That's $5,660,000. Life-changing doesn't even begin to cover it. That's legacy wealth, the kind that can transform your family's future for generations. Now let's say you hold 10 million dong. At $4.78, that's $47,800,000. That's beyond dreams for most people. This is why so many in the community are buzzing right now, because even a fraction of these rates would change everything. Even if Iraq came in at $3.22 and Vietnam at 50 cents, people would still walk away with incredible returns. But with numbers like $5.66 and $4.78 being talked about, the potential is almost too massive to fully comprehend. What's important to remember is that timing is key. Frank26 has suggested that the process is already underway, that banks are on alert, and that certain privileged individuals are being given early access. He said that the public announcement could come suddenly without warning and that The window to exchange could be very specific. This is why, according to him, people should be ready at all times, with their currencies, their exchange plans, and their financial strategies in place. Whether you believe in these exact numbers or not, it's hard to argue against the wisdom of being prepared. If a major revaluation or reset does occur, the ones who are ready will be the ones who benefit the most. At RV News, we always remind our viewers to stay grounded, do your research, and never invest more than you can afford to lose. Yes, the potential upside here is extraordinary. Yes, updates like the one from Frank26 make the excitement go through the roof, but we have to balance that with a level-headed perspective. We don't control the rates, the timing, or the policies of Iraq and Vietnam. All we can do is watch, prepare, and hope that what we've been waiting for is finally coming to fruition. And with everything,